Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Game, starring Michael Douglas, Sean Penn, Deborah Kara Unger, James Rebhorn, and Peter Donat, directed by David Fincher. Now, I heard a little bit of this movie. I just know the title and the fact that it has Michael Douglas, but other than that, I couldn't tell you a damn thing about this movie. So let's get into it and we'll see if I can. Nicholas Van Orton, played by Michael Douglas, is a divorced man with a job in San Francisco and a giant house as the whole day takes place on his birth. Well, not the whole day, but this first half takes place on his birthday. And at lunchtime, he meets with Conrad, played by Sean Penn, for his birthday, and that's his brother. That's what Conrad is. As Conrad makes Nicholas call a psychiatric called the CRS for him, and he hates surprises. And I like Michael Douglas, but his character isn't quite as relatable as Somerset in Seven. And usually, David Fincher is usually good at making relatable characters, with an exception of Mank and Alien 3. But here, his main character is fine at best, but he's not great in my opinion. And I'm having a hard time relating with Nicholas, as he had a father committing suicide, which we see in the flashbacks as he goes in the CRS and meets with Jim Feingold, played by James Rebhorn, as it's a game of a psychiatric meeting. And my problem is I can't make sense of this first 15 minutes. And I do have a hard time with Nicholas as a character. And I'm not sure if I like Jim or Conrad to begin with, as this is a very complicated first 20 minutes with a clever way it ends, but we'll see if it gets better by the end of it. I'll get there when I get there. As the game begins, Nicholas doesn't know what the game is and asks a couple of gentlemen to meet with him at a bar for members only. As he asks them about the game and don't give him the exact information, as the next day he's in a meeting with his employees, and as he gets a call from the CRS saying his test was tested negative, and at nighttime, as he arrives home, he finds a clown at his porch. And this is a movie where you have to think straight about what the fuck is happening. Nicholas gets fucked around by the CRS and his TV as he's watching the news, and the anchor man is talking to him as it's a random scene, and the game is just beginning for Nicholas. But I'm honestly having a hard time with the movie, and it might get better by later. I'm not 100% sure, and the characters, which is a real problem from the get-go. Not Gordon Gekko, but Gekko. Nicholas has ink in his breast pocket on his shirt and cleans it up and goes on a business trip meeting with a man named Hanson, and almost fires him for stock reasons and has a hard time opening his case. And come on, how can a briefcase have a hard time opening? Which doesn't make any sense. Nicholas goes back to San Francisco and meets with Conrad at the restaurant he met with Conrad at the beginning of the movie, and bumps into Christine, played by Deborah Kara Unger, with wine that was meant for him, or just be spilled all over him, I'll say, and gets her fired. And he tries to apologize to her as she's blowing him off while receiving a no from her. And suddenly, a man faints and gets hospitalized, and Christine comes off like a bitch in this movie. And I swear to God, I don't like her in this movie, as she becomes annoying as hell throughout the whole movie. He gets Christine with him into the game as the light starts going off, like in the parking garage, to an elevator, as the elevator doesn't work, and they get out of the elevator leading to CRS. As they get in the building, and Christine starts running, and Nicholas joins her in the running, and a policeman goes after them with a dog that happens to be a German Shepherd, which I love those dogs. As it encounters a couple of other dogs, and Nicholas drops his $1,000 shoe, which, stupid on him, I guess. and they jump into a trash can, and some people laugh at them, which I would be too if that were me, because it's laughable. In the movie, I'll say. And they get up and they get cleaned up and call a taxi cab company to get them both home. And the plot gets much better as it progresses, but to be honest, the characters are mediocre at best, except for maybe Christine. Nicholas gets his American Express card from the hotel Lost and Found and goes in his room and sees a mess in there as it's playing some porno in the background, as the CRS has photos of him and Christine together, which is absolutely fucking creepy, as this movie can get creepy at times with people following Nicholas around. But at best, this is a B movie trying to beat an A movie like Seven, but it is unfortunately unsuccessful. Nicholas gets his attorney involved to expose a co-worker to a man whom he's led to believe is working with the CRS, as he's being toyed with by the bastards at the CRS, which turned out to be a misunderstanding. And Nicholas gets home with a gun as his house is vandalized with graffiti, and gets his cleaning lady, Ilsa, and tells her to lock her door, and he calls the cops until Conrad shows up at his place, I'll say, and they go for a drive, and Conrad and Nicholas shout at each other after he's led to believe Nicholas is with CRS and at that point, Sean Penn is overreacting in this scene, and his character was annoying right off the bat, so that's another character I find a little annoying. And Nicholas ditches the car and calls a taxi cab as he's with the CRS, and almost kills Nicholas by jumping out of the cab and lets the car go in the ocean, and Nicholas manages to get out successfully. The next day, Nicholas calls the cops and his attorney to expose the CRS, as the place is empty, and I thought, what the fuck is happening at this point? As Nicholas's world turns upside down, Nicholas visits Christine at her place to talk to her briefly, and as it turns out, she's involved with the CRS, and some men shoot up Christine's house, and as they run out and drive away from the bastards at the CRS, and Nicholas kicks Christine out of the car and drives back to get her back, which kind of stupid, in the car to get more information from Christine about the CRS, as they take all of his money and are trying to kill him, which is a cliche of thrillers about setting someone up, as they drive to Mexico to a house, as we learn her name is not really Christine. And I kind of forgot what she said at the end, but I don't think it matters. And we learn Nicholas's... Oh, wait, it was Claire. That sounds familiar. And we learn Nicholas's attorney is not really an attorney, and Christine/Claire puts some kind of poison in Nicholas's tea, and as he gets transported to Mexico, which is quite a twist that everyone is involved in trying to kill Nicholas, as it's very trippy. And I think thrillers like that could be pretty trippy at times, so I credit David Fincher for that. Nicholas wakes up in Mexico as he's now homeless and finds a way to get back to America without an ID card nor a passport, and he's successful by going on a bus back to America and goes to a diner to get a ride to San Francisco, and does hitch a ride with a truck driver, and he gets back to San Francisco. And the truck driver happens to be a Baskin Robbins kind of truck, you know, that place for ice cream. Let's move on. And breaks into his own house and goes back to the hotel to find Conrad, but was kicked out for a nervous breakdown, and goes to a mental hospital, which seems rather interesting in an odd kind of way. Well, Sean Penn has that in real life, but I'm not going to judge the man for that. Nicholas goes to Elizabeth and meets her at a restaurant as he takes the car, and she offers Nicholas something to eat and chats with her as he sees on the TV something from CRS. And Nicholas learns that Jim, the boss of CRS, is an actor on the TV. And he takes off and almost gets his car stolen, but points the gun at the car thief, which is kind of a smart move, I'll say, if it were me in particular. And he takes a picture from a Chinese restaurant, not like snapping a photo, but like stealing a picture at best, and goes to the zoo and finds Jim with the kids. And the movie has pretty good shots, and asks and Nicholas asks Jim to get Nicholas in a party involving the CRS. He goes inside to meet the wizard of the CRS and sees Christine slash Claire, let's say. I'm going to just call her that for the rest of the show, by the way. Is there and takes her upstairs to kill her, and someone bursts out as it's Conrad, and Nicholas shoots Conrad as it was supposed to be a surprise, as Conrad is dead, and Nicholas jumps off the building like his father did, with flashback scenes that don't make sense. But an airbag shaped like a pillow saves his life, and we learn Nicholas is alive, and so is Conrad. Da 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 da. Let's move on. As it was a birthday surprise, and that twist worked pretty damn good as it was a good surprise, and Nicholas was happily surprised, even though he doesn't like the surprise as the character, and the climax is good, to be perfectly honest. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 6.8 out of 10. This is a good plot with a pretty good twist that works pretty damn good. The characters are not as relatable as the ones in 7 as the beginning of the plot. The plot was not great, and as it kicks into gear eventually, by the time we get to the Christine, who was an annoying character, as Conrad, the movie has some good shots, and the twist is trippy, and as an ending, it worked rather pretty well, as this is a pretty good movie, but not a great movie, and it got rather stale at first, but it got better by the end of the day. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with a better movie than that, called Fight Club. And until next time, game over.